All
right, we're live.
Hello, everyone. Yes. What do you imagine? Let us begin with what you imagine, Justin.
I should probably watch my cursing.
Yes, this is not yet Rem After Dark, but you can totally... I think this is like FCC rules where you get like one curse word you can use over the season, and we haven't really, so like you could use the cast party for your one curse word, I guess.
I can't do just one curse word. It's either a million or none. Or usually can't do none.
Yeah, I don't think nuns really curse that much, except for Aubrey Plaza in that movie where she played a nun. That's neither here nor there. I saw another person pop in, so while the cameras are being a little wacky, I'll do the intro.
I already fixed it.
Oh, Jane already fixed it.
Oh,
Yay!
no,
Isabit/Jane. No,
maybe.
I didn't. Yes.
Oh, damn! Someone got pretty.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm coming to you live from Zenkai Con, where I've been doing drag all weekend.
That's very cash money of you.
I've made a lot of cash money, so that's really good.
Congratulations on that, yes. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Becoming Mighty and Morphin Season 1 cast party. I am Panabon, your GM/Ozordon/Ghost Host with the most, if you're on the Haunted Mansion ride. I love Power Rangers, and so I decided, in my infinite wisdom, I wanted to make a tabletop role-playing game out of it the second I heard Renegade Game Studios was making a TTRPG, and then I got some people to come along on the crazy ride with me. Sadly, Quentin will not be able to join us. I would love to have Quentin here because there are a couple of really cool Quentin-centric questions that I had planned out. But of course, everybody loves Quentin, so we'll probably talk about them, and they're here in spirit. Isn't Andrew like your family member, like in real life?
He's my younger brother.
Oh. I always wondered about that.
Adorable.
Oh, cute.
Who was older and who was younger?
Maturity, him. Age, I am.
Well, I'm a big fan of you both, so I'm glad that you could both be part of Season 1. Like I said, I'm Zordon. I'm also Panabon on Sundays. I'm the GM for Power Rangers Centurion every other Wednesday. I was a QVC special tree topping doll. If you listened into Twas, the Christmas-themed one that I'm still having nightmares about the spiders in the attic episode. I'm everywhere here on Rem. During the streamathon, I will have a stream called Destination Investigations, which is about a ghost hunting team. Totally not gone awry because that's not my brand at all. And so if you haven't signed up for the streamathon and you'd like to get involved, that's going to be on 4:29 to 4:30, and my stream will be at 9:30.
Would you like me to post a link to the form in chat?
If you'd like to, yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, so my stream is one of the ones later in the evening on Saturday, 4:29, and then all the times for the games are in Eastern Standard, if you need to do the math. Let's go around the table, and we'll start with everyone's favorite Red Ranger, Jane, unless you're busy posting something, so I can start with someone else. And then I will just move up north. Brick Kerrigan is with us, who's not playing a saucy character today, but is every other Wednesday, also during Power Rangers Center. I guess Brick is a little saucy, especially during Season 2. The sauce does seem to be coming out a little bit.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, there's definitely more Brick sauce in Season 2 than there is in Season 1.
That sounds gritty.
Brick sauce.
Apparently I was muted on the stream, so circle back around to me and I'll redo mine after you do everybody else.
Okay. We can do that. In season 2, which has a name, and we are currently recording, Brick opens up a barbecue stand to sell barbecue brick sauce. And so that's a spoiler for you for season 2. Listen in to find out how that goes for young entrepreneur Brick Kerrigan.
Just bear in mind, it might actually have like bits of like earth and sand in it, so it's not intentional, but it's going to file down your teeth.
It's gritty. It's good for you.
Nothing's better than a
It's healthy.
cornbread baseball.
Cornbread baseball. That sounds delicious. Yes, we're gonna go with that. We're gonna incorporate that into season 2. You'll see. You do have a love of food. It's something you and Quentin actually shared throughout season 1, which I really enjoyed.
Yes,
I
we did
also
bond over food quite often.
Yes, including the delicious sausages at the Around the World Food Showcase during the art festival in the latter portion of the season.
Did we actually get to eat the platter that they ordered, or did we leave before that? I thought, didn't Brick's parents drag him away before he got to actually eat it? Or am I not allowed to say that because people may not have watched or listened?
Spoilers.
I think Brick did get some corn dogs in, if I remember correctly. So I don't know if you got any of the sausages from around the world, but I'm pretty sure you and Quentin found each other over like nearby the lemonade corn dog stand. I could be wrong about that. I'd have to go back and listen in.
Yeah,
I just remember Cecily going mom mode like she needs to.
It's true. And Cecily, you were a consistent badass through the season. If you'd like to introduce yourself, Cecily.
Hi, I am Lottie Alla West, coming to you live from ZenkaiCon, that's why I'm in a hotel room right now. I'm doing some production. I just actually do an act that's kind of inspired by Cecily. It's like a paladin princess number where I wear a big blue dress and I have red hair, so it's like kind of Cecily inspired for Bubble Pop Entertainment, where I'm a producer. So,
welcome. And then, of course, we have Eddie Thatch, everyone's favorite Black Ranger, in podcast form, but here in life.
So, of course, I'm the favorite Black Ranger.
It's true.
Well, Lisa, actually, I don't know. Do you have a Black Ranger in the other show you're doing?
I will not spoil that. Because that has not been revealed.
You're correct.
The poor Rangers and Centurion have had to put up with 2 episodes of utter nonsense, and they aren't even full Power Rangers yet. Some jerk GM is just really yanking their chain, you know?
You're just like coyly playing with the prey.
But we do have
Something
one
about-
very saucy character, and that's been fun.
It's true.
What can I say?
That sweet teeth filing brick sauce. My name is Patrick Bryant. I play Eddie Thatch. He is the teenager with attitude in the black pajamas. Nerdy, affable, geek guy who's basically just large and powerful in frame, and not necessarily much of an athletic individual like Brick is, being the baseball star. I work alongside Dragon Unicorn Games and join Rem Alternus with doing a few things here and there when I have the time. I will be joining the Streamathon at the end of April, and I will be running Through the Breach, which is set in the world of Malifaux, which is a steampunk kind of Lovecraftian horror kind of setting. And I will be doing the one-shot Penny Dreadful module, The Ferryman, and I am titling it The River of Nightmares. And that will be on the Sunday at 5 o'clock, I do believe.
It's right before like Clockwork, which is also steampunk, so it's a really nice way to transition. And if you're signing up and you're looking for that, the sign up for that is River of Nightmares. I didn't realize there was a "the" when I created the form, so
No, that's fine.
I'm sure it's fine. There are many River of Nightmares. I've lived in Ohio. I've seen what the Great Lakes look like. So yeah, so there's some river and lakes of nightmares happening in the real world. And then, of course, speaking of affable people, Jane Russell /Isabeth/Elizabeth/Freya /Drew / whatever Drew's real name is
Keep going.
/Jules
There's more.
/GM for Blades in the Dark, because you're doing that during the streamathon, and also you did a one-shot for Blades in the Dark, which I really like for your brand.
There's a couple more too, but you can stop there.
/
Okay.
the upcoming all Jane all the time Power Ranger.
Jane Power Rangers episode. It'll be like a thing where
It'll be a special, and Jane Elizabeth is totally on board for it.
I am not on board for this at all.
You're gonna accrue so many Power Ranger characters that will actually have the ability to have an episode where we're all playing different versions.
My goal is to be every color at once, and right now I'm 3. I have 3 of them at once.
Yeah. And there is a perk, so I don't know if this will work across universes. There is a perk in the new Across the Stars game. If you haven't pre-ordered the PDF, there is a Across the Stars perk where if you have a character that has been different versions in different decades of Rangers, that you can actually perk so you can go back and forth between your different Ranger selves, which is kind of cool. And I'm totally not thinking about how I can exploit that in any of the games that I'm running.
So kind of like a legacy type vibe?
Yeah, definitely. If you haven't seen the Across the Stars book, it's really pretty. I may have teared up a little bit, and I may have gushed to Brian Steele about how much I like it. But yeah, we are here. It is time for the cast party /Q&A. I wanted to give us a chance to reflect on Season 1. Look forward, try not to spoil too much, but look forward to Season 2, because that is currently being recorded. I have no idea when it's coming out. But right now, literally yesterday, the season finale for Season 1 Becoming Mighty and Morphin dropped. And so I want to celebrate. I was looking at it. It's 13 2-hour episodes and some change, because the finale was a 3-hour episode. So it all evens out to about 2:15 per episode. And so, that's 13 blocks of time where we all got together and were able to tell a story together. So I wanted to be able to celebrate that and celebrate you guys as Rangers and you guys finding out the mechanics of the game and growing as characters. Does anyone want to begin with kind of their feelings on how Season 1 went?
I would like to essentially kind of highlight your work specifically with doing your first GM game and the really impressive job that you've done doing so.
I would like to second that.
Yeah, incredible. As a Power Rangers fan, it's been so fun to kind of step into this world and really be able to experience it.
Yeah, same as you've just been so great at oh geez, words. You've been so great at orchestrating this whole story that's been so fun to play through and be a part of, and so it's really, I'm thankful to you for giving me the opportunity to be a Power Ranger, which is something I've always wanted to do.
Thanks, I appreciate that. Yeah, I came at this both from wanting to learn how to GM, because I'd been a character for a while, but I wanted to learn how to incorporate what I do in plays into GMing. I also didn't want it to just be pure nostalgia. As much as I like iGuy and Pudgy Pig and King Sphinx, I also wanted it to feel like I wanted to do what Boom Studios is doing, but in TTRPG form especially. And I wanted it to feel like it was its own part of the universe. So if they ever shatter the grid again, it still exists somewhere in and of itself. And it was a lot of fun, and I could not have done it without you. I could not have done it without people that were game to do it and were really into being Rangers. And so I appreciate that you came along for the ride, and even when I was wrong, you gave me the grace, and I was able to also kind of explain to the audience what I misunderstood in the book. And I was able to say, no, you're right, so let's roll it this way so that we're consistent. And so I appreciate all the grace that you all gave me as players. Because it's difficult being behind the chair as a GM, but it's also kind of got to be difficult being a player trying to juggle all the things that you need to do with the Power Ranger mechanics for Essence 20.
Not to mention the coy and clever GM just loves to throw all these little twists and turns at you.
It's true. You all did really well with the twists and turns. So in this finale episode, which is not spoiling anything, I just want to encourage people to go watch it. I expected that people would kind of get into the shutter speed commercial, but I feel like especially you, Eddie, you really took the concept of shutter speed and the concept of kind of instant fame and what shutter speed offered, and you took it in a really amazing, surprising direction. I did not anticipate that. I had to roll with it, and it was a great thing. And I know that Jane, you were able to make a commercial for shutter speed. I think that's on for our Patreon, I believe.
Yeah, it's posted in our Discord, and I also released it on Patreon, and it was just the Brick and Eddie duo portion of it, and it was really great. It's
so good.
Beatboxer money didn't buy.
Do you know what level of Patreon you need to be? Like, if you become the Rem hero with the $2 level, are you able to get access to that, or do you need to be one of the ranks? Because I know we have the Rem hero and then the ranks.
Let me double check. I'm fairly certain that you could be a Rem hero for that, but let me double check. Just
shout out to the Patreon. Shout out to the Patreon where you get all the exclusive content early, like the shutter speed commercial. I also like that the shutter speed commercial you kind of did like a William Shatner pause voice, which I very much appreciated. Like, I really did like how much you got into it.
That was me panicking.
The two did such a great job.
I think that episode was Cecily's, like, dealing with things. It was crazy. She really had to go through it.
Yes. At the $2 mark, you get access to all Patreon posts. And I'm sorry. Yes, you get access to all the Patreon posts, but Patreon exclusive content like pre-recorded games, Session Zero's character art is at the $10 rank.
Which is the bronze rank, if I remember correctly. Yes. So for the cost of 2 Starbucks cups of coffee a month, you could have access to amazing things, including a commercial for shutter speed, which, if you haven't watched the episode about, you'll have to find out about. I'd like to talk a little bit about Cecily for a moment, actually, because you were I don't know if badass is a bad word on Twitch, but I'm gonna say it anyways because I just did. I was really excited about having a character that was full on Ren Fair weird girl, and then you really took the reins on it, not just incorporating your own life, but really creating a very solid non-traditional Blue Ranger character. And I was so excited to see kind of what you did throughout the series. It captivated my attention several times. You did some really amazing things, not just in the finale where your mom energy was on full display, but at least in... Yes. I just remember thinking when I was creating in the season opener, when I was creating the dream sequence for each of you, yours was probably the easiest because you had such a fleshed out Ren Fair concept that I couldn't not give you like a weird Digimon Black Knight character. So I think that was probably one of the easier ones for me. Quentin's was the hardest because I really wanted to work in the weird flute elf, and I couldn't figure out, or the flute dwarf, and I couldn't figure out how to work in the like flute dwarf guy. And so I was like, I'll just give that to Quentin and I'll figure it out later. But the jousting Black Knight I thought would be really fun and let you really kind of show off the character.
I really loved that because I felt like I kind of wanted her to be like, I don't know, like as somebody who's worked in a Ren Fair, like there's like people that are families that work there all the time, and like they're all just like the weirdest people but the best people. They're like so fun, but you're also like, you're cuckoo. And I mean that with love because I am also insane. And I wanted to kind of like have that idea of like these two people that have been doing their entire lives. They met at the Ren Fair and then they had a kid. And she's just like from a different time period all the time, whether it's like her thinking about like King Henry VIII's wives or like she's wearing like 1950s clothes for no reason, for doing something with friends, you know. But I wanted to have somebody who was super strong, and Blue Rangers are always my favorite. In every season, they're pretty much always my favorite. I love them so much, so it was just really exciting when when we were doing the dream sequence, and I got the thing that said like a flash of blue. I like literally like I think I turned off my camera because we were on camera like playing with each other, and I like just like screamed a little bit internally. I was like yes, because I love Blue Rangers, and so it was really neat.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was there.
When this game was like getting together the first time, I remember like Lottie and I just kept going back and forth of like what Ranger colors we thought we were gonna be, and I was like, oh, you're definitely gonna be pink. Like they're gonna make you pink for sure. And then that ended up not being the case, and she got her favorite color, which is awesome.
I think it was hilarious when you got pink and you were like, are you sure? Am I pink? Really?
There was no way that wasn't going in the commercial.
And I would like to point out that he got to meet one of the original Pink Rangers at Power Morphicon, and he bought that shirt that he's wearing right now.
Oh, yeah, you can't see it on stream, but I'm wearing a shirt that says Pink Ranger in Training, sold by the great and lovely Catherine Hillard, who played Catherine in Power Rangers.
Who is going to be part of the Once and Always? What is this?
Yes, she is going to be a part of Once and Always.
Once in Future, Once and Forever, it's Once in something.
Yeah. Once and Always. The 30th MMPR anniversary, which is super cool.
Yeah. So, Cecily, do you have a favorite episode or adventure that you got to do? Because I have some favorite memories, but I'm curious if you have like a favorite Cecily moment.
I really liked the like Halloween episode in general. I thought that was really fun.
You were all so excited, and then I tore down your dreams, and it was amazing.
It was crazy, but it was fun. I think one of my favorite memories was honestly the finale, which if you haven't watched it, listen to it, you should. Was Cecily herding cats, just trying to be like in charge, and she's not very good at it. She thinks that she's good at it, but she's not very good at being in charge, and trying to like coax everybody into doing things the best that she can because she's trying her best. And I loved how everybody was so good at playing, like being completely distracted with their own thing in that. So it was genuinely a challenge to try to like me trying to get their attention because like everybody was off in their own world, and I'm like, come on guys, we gotta do this, and they're like
I was a little worried you were never gonna get to the battle. I was like, if Cecily can't pull this off, am I trapping them all? Is this gonna turn into Shop Till You Drop, the game show from the 90s? But she got him there. And it was important to me too, because that particular part of it is based on a kind of fake Arthurian legend story that I read in 7th grade that I can't find to save my life, about the idea of temptation and the idea of distraction from a goal. And besides kind of the Halloween episode, you also have this great moment I always think of where you take a heart out of a putty's chest as you're killing them, and I felt like that was an amazing moment that I appreciated very much.
I was so excited to do that because I really wanted to make this like really strong but feminine character, and I think that was like a really good depiction of that. Because I could also see it playing out in the Power Rangers universe, like in the TV show, where like the kind of headstrong, like cocky, sword wielding characters. Like, come on, we have to like finish this off, and like just going full force. And it felt very like, I was like, this felt so like the TV show, but like very intense, and I really love that.
If I may chime in too, one thing that I really, really loved with a scene with Cecily was right there at the beginning, the very, very first time that we were fighting putties, where we're just kind of getting to know each other, and you're really kind of showcasing your personality with stabbing a putty with a spatula.
I mean,
What, they use a spatula or something like that?
I think
then
it
you basically
was.
that was the closest analog you could find to your sword style, and you just.
Of course, that's also the episode where Jane stabs you with a barbecue fork. If I remember correctly,
Yeah.
was that Jane?
I
Just a
had
little-
I'm fine.
the
I'm
pleasure
fine.
of actually editing most of the episodes of this, and when I was starting and I got to that episode, that part of the episode, all you can hear is everybody laughing and me in the background saying, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to stab you. And it was the best. It was so much fun. I'm so sorry. Yeah, it was a grill fork that I stabbed Eddie with on accident.
I almost I forgot that happened.
I did too until I was editing the episode, and I just couldn't stop laughing.
I also, especially at the beginning when I was trying to figure out really how I was going to get all these different characters to work, and how you were going to become a team, having Cecily and Jane move together almost on the same turn to actually like face the putties as one. Besides the Greek chorus that Brick couldn't get rid of, that Quentin couldn't get rid of because Brick, you were behind the tree, but Quentin had like those people that he could not get to go away.
Yeah, I was just trying to. Yeah.
So he just couldn't roll them. I was like, please, you just got to roll a little higher. It's all you need. And
the silly part is he had the skill built for it. He was just rolling bad.
Yeah,
it's true.
It happens.
But having Cecily and Jane do that, and then have that happen almost again a couple episodes later in Along Came a Spider when you're trying to climb up the side of that cliff after Brick has disappeared. I really love the Cecily-Jane dynamic because you're both outsiders, but you approached it from such different ways in character building. You both really do have that outside of Angel Grove, more worldly perspective in different ways, and it's very clear in your characters, but you both approach rangering very similar, which I really love. I think so. I don't know if you'd agree with me, but
I think they're two weird girls that definitely have different weird girl styles, but I think they complement each other.
I would
Very
agree
well.
with that. Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that.
yeah. And then Brick, who is everybody's favorite Pink Ranger, creator of Brickfist, the one that ended up in like the dark dimension twice in the course of like 3 months, who just rolled hot enough that you got in trouble all the time.
I felt there was a period where I felt so bad because I felt like all of these things were happening to me, like specifically me, and I was like, I'll take it, but also I felt bad. I felt like I was just getting so much, like I was like pulling from everybody else, and I didn't want to do that. But I mean,
I don't think you. What I loved about Brick that I talked about in your interview was how much I loved the idea of having a ranger character that had such a specific schedule and had such a specific need outside of rangering. Like the idea of an athlete archetype is so easy for kind of rangerdom because then you're built in physically to be a ranger, and the idea of loyalty is really important to you as a character. But the other aspect of that is that athletes have to work really hard, and you're not always available when you need to be for things outside of athletics. And I'm really glad you didn't create a jerk athlete too. That would have been very difficult. I really like the kindness that you brought as Brick. Like, as you grew into Brick, I could see not just the Pink Ranger athletic aspect of the baseball, but the kind of kindness that I always associate with the pink spectrum, and sometimes with the green spectrum too, because they're kind of similar sides of that coin. And so I really appreciated, even though you felt like you stole people's thunder, I think it worked because every time you did was always you being in danger or discovering something about yourself. And that's great. That's great. That's great TV right there, baby. Well, you did almost die. I do want to say you
true.
almost died like twice. You weren't ever really going to die, but you almost had your head bitten off by the spider, and along came a spider because you almost didn't roll out of that, which would have been very difficult to give you a power weapon. But you definitely almost stayed in the black and white world when you were there, and I really loved that because I hadn't built that in, and I was following your lead as you were making that decision, which was so cool for me.
That's crazy because like I don't know, like it is no secret that this is my first like tabletop role-playing experience, and so I kind of, it's so interesting to like hear that you're following my lead as I'm playing, because I feel like I am at your whim. Do you know what I mean? Like I feel like you have, I don't know, I feel like I'm always kind of searching for the right answer or the right thing that you're expecting from us, and I always feel like I miss the mark, but I guess I don't. So that's good, I guess.
There are a couple of things that you did that really surprised me. So if anyone goes back and listens to the episode, if you go back and listen to All Is Fair, which is episode 10, the part of the episode where Brick is talking with Elvestris, who is the goodness inside of Rita that has kind of fled so as to survive. So that whole scenario with you having tea with her is one line in my script of Blank Ranger is offered tea. And you created this whole thing of, I really started to feel like the idea that you were sinking into this world in sort of a get out way. And that like you were almost making a choice to stay. And I loved that because I hadn't intended it. But once you were going there, I was like, no, I'm going to follow this until we get to the end of this. So yeah, that was all you. That was not intended in my script at all. And you took it there, which was great.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Compare that with the utter catastrophe, which was me trying to figure out how to do a lot of different little combats in the test. I think that's episode 5, where all bets were off and the points didn't matter, and I just kept I just kept making everybody a little more annoyed and aggravated with me as the day wore on, and then somebody tried to poison Jane with a spicy sandwich because the other teens were a little. Yeah, so in the overnight hours, the girls from the prep school tried to like give you a poison sandwich.
Right. Okay, yeah, I do remember that now. Okay.
And this was after like a full day, but you had also met the other Jane in that episode. So
by the way, I want to say that preppy girl the character that you introduced, I hate her.
Preppy girl.
So Brick, do you have a I call you Brick so often, I feel like I should be calling you by your actual actor name too. I should call you John.
No, it's, I mean, call me Brick. I'm yeah. The thing is too is Brick is, because I'm not super like well versed in like character creation, Brick is like pretty close to home, I think. So there's a lot of aspects about me that are very similar to Brick, I guess. Minus the whole athlete part. That's definitely not an aspect of my life that I ever was a part of. But yeah, so yeah, call me Brick. I'm cool with that.
Well, I hope you're a little bit athletic, because when I come for my MFA program, I'm hoping that like we can all go bowling or something. It'd be really cool to do.
Well, that would be fun.
Yeah.
I can bowl.
Yeah. I can bowl too, just not well. It's really an excuse to have chili cheese fries and soda. I got.
Can we put the bumpers up?
I don't know if they allow that for adults. The ones here in Oregon are they very much frown on that.
Or you can just say you have a kid coming later, and then they never come.
They just never show up. My child is coming for bowling. So I really loved. I loved a lot of what Brick did at the beginning of the series. I loved what happened in the Halloween episode. Again, something where I was following. I had an idea of what I wanted to do, and I kept changing what was going to happen to Brick in the Halloween episode. You had like 3 different things that would have happened to you, but as you were refining your character, I was changing what was going to happen to you. I loved your breakdown after you came back. In All Is Fair and Unimaginable, like, I really love those pair episodes, and I know they're probably very hard for you, but like, as a not just a player of TTRPG, but as someone that loves really good drama, I thought that was great. Painful, but I actually kind of thought it was great because it's both very rangery and very non-rangery, because the idea of losing your power, losing that part of yourself is just, it's almost like a ranger taboo in a way. It's like a last resort thing you don't see much. And I just love the way that you carried that off, and how wonderful it was when you actually got a gift from all of that pain that you went through, and I was able to give you that back too. I was very excited for Unimaginable because I knew it was coming, and I was like, I can't spoil it, but I really wanted to get you there so that you could go back to being a full ranger, and I was glad that worked out. So
that's actually one of my favorite moments with all of us is that whole thing with Brick essentially losing his powers to save the rest of us, and going through, I know, Leslie says, that whole thing just was hard for everybody. And I mean, I think all of us were in tears and crying by the end of that episode. And then the next time that we recorded, having Brick just kind of fall to his knees and break down, and all of us kind of surrounding him and just being there for him, that moment just is one of my favorite of, I think, the whole series, just because it really shows how far, essentially, we were mostly strangers when we started our journey, and that moment where we all just kind of came together to support him really showed how much we had grown as a group and as friends. And that, I don't know, it was just one of my favorites with all of us.
By the way, if you hadn't rolled, I think it was that 25, you had a really high, insane roll, because you were trapped in a different room. Yeah.
Or you're Cecily and you just constantly can't stop rolling 21s.
I mean, it's not, yeah, it's great. It's great for the story. Yeah.
Jack Adwell.
What did I roll for? What was it for? Do you remember?
So I remember
being awesome, I think.
Yes.
I remember, yeah, there was like this one, I remember there's a few rolls where I feel like I did that. Are you specifically talking about when I left the gray dimension, or what?
Yeah, well, you were always going to leave the gray dimension. You almost didn't because you almost stayed, but you were always going to come back. That was always part of the arc, because it's like, it's a Return to Oz homage. Like, there's a couple episodes that are very much homages to Return to Oz, which is half accidental because it's a great film. But so the whole, your sleight of hand that you rolled in Area 52.
Oh,
I'm
right. Yeah.
so angry about that.
Yeah.
You almost weren't in that room too, because if Jane hadn't rolled high enough, because I had the mechanic where all the blast doors went down. If you hadn't rolled like that 26 to be in that room, you would have been not even had the option. And then while you're arguing with Brick is like, and a roll sleight of hand, and it's a 19.
Yeah, well, they were all
I
arguing with each other. I think everyone was arguing with each other about who was going to do it, and I was just like, no, I'm just going to do it. Like,
yeah, it was me and Eddie. Eddie was arguing with me because I was trying to get everybody out of the room because I was afraid that it would hurt them.
I made Eddie with a general intention of kind of being that kind of person that will be very willing to shoulder a lot of pain to prevent other people from encountering that. And it was like I knew in that little scene there that this was kind of like a vibe that Jane was going down a little bit too, and so I was a little hesitant to just walk up and shove the thing in, and then Brick just does it. And they're like, well, I was expecting Jane to do it. I'm not very surprised, especially now that we've kind of got to know Brick a little bit better. But earlier on, it was like Brick wasn't very high in my mental list of someone who is just going to lay on the grenade type thing, and he just did it.
I'd like to state for the record that Cecily would never. That's something I just think that she struggles with being very selfish, and it's still something that she's dealing with.
She's also totally the leader of the group.
Absolutely.
She's the leader, obviously.
Absolutely.
She struggles with selfishness, and that's something that I think is kind of fun to play with when you're in a team dimension, is to see all the other people that are much better at being a team player, and her having kind of this like only child syndrome upped a million times.
Honestly, though, I think that's something that really only Cecily sees, because Jane doesn't see that at all. Jane doesn't see Cecily as being selfish. Jane sees Cecily as very much a team player, somebody that would absolutely jump in to help any one of us or anybody that needed help. So I think that's really just from Cecily's perspective, because Jane doesn't see that at all.
Yeah, with Cecily being she's very it feels to me that she's very sure of the person that she is, as far as that kind of cottagecore type thing. Like, she embraces the fact that she's different, and she does it with, like, I can't imagine someone would be able to make her feel bad for being the person she is,
Right.
because she would be like, "You're foolish. This is awesome."
Yeah.
And then with the combat style of kind of like just being that sword scene, and again, kind of being that aggressive, like in your face power, and I don't know, very, very powerful vibe
Cecily's
for that
just
character.
awesome.
And then you got a unicorn, which made it really friggin' awesome.
Well, and in the Halloween episode, it's not really. There was no mistake as to why you saw yourself as Rita. Like, that was very specific. I could see the journey Cecily had been going on, and I could see how strong you were getting. And I wanted to mimic the parts of kind of, because there's a good bad coin to being a Power Ranger, is being this teen that's growing in these powers, has a secret identity, has a superhero-dom. I didn't want to go full-on boys, but there's also choices you have to make to actively keep yourself from, like, going too far. That's part of what the directive is about the 3 rules you have as Rangers. But, like, it's also, like, the strength has a darker side of being an iconoclast, almost. And so, like, it wasn't there were very specific reasons why I had you see yourself as Rita, and I think that was a great part of this journey that continues into season 2, because the choices that you made in season 1 affected the choices that you'll get to make in season 2, because that's just how it works.
Like, yeah. I didn't mean to, like, jump in. I just thought it was...
No, it's fine.
It was a really cool moment, and I definitely cried, though, when everybody else was doing stuff. It was Coco and Lottie and not...
And I had kept trying to do things where I could bring you all together, because I had this habit earlier in the series especially of breaking you into little manageable groups, because I just didn't know how to do a big group fight. Because I wanted to make sure you all felt like you had moments in the sun, but I also wanted to give you your power weapons in a way that made sense, so it wasn't like... something I kept trying to do that I don't know that I succeeded at was I kept trying to get Brick and Quentin together in a room, because I really liked your bro vibe that you had together, and I wanted to bring Eddie into that too, one of my favorite little scenes in the whole series is in episode 1, because we have an episode 0. But in episode 1, where you're having your deja vu moment, and Quentin is like, "What is Brick's schedule?" And then you had like this understanding of weirdness happening and not trying to hide it and having an honest conversation on your way to school. I felt that was very rangery. I really liked that, and I kept trying to make that happen again, and I kept having varying degrees of success of getting you all to have these like non-rangery yet rangery superhero moments together. So I hope you all felt that I tried to give you a balance, where you could do friendship and power things, because that's what it's all about, really.
I think we got lots of opportunities for that. I think there was always something else that was going on that we had the opportunity to kind of try to grow our friendship, not necessarily our team, but get to know one another and kind of become friends. Like the breakfast, the fire station charity breakfast, and the auction house that we all just kind of, essentially it was supposed to be like the boys going to breakfast and the girls going to the antique store, and instead we just kind of all decided to go together as friends to both of them.
By the way, if we ever do have merch, there is a Brickfist shirt that I made very quickly. So if we ever do merch for the series as a whole, there is an option for a Brickfist shirt, maybe a hat or a beanie. We'll find out. But yeah, I really enjoy being able to celebrate that, and I tried to give NPCs that wouldn't get in the way of that. I tried to give you a bit of Ernie, and then I tried to give you someone who I could be really cryptic with, who was Latour, who was based on
everyone.
Well, with Zordon, I have to be a little cryptic, but there's a reason Zordon is cryptic. Also, because sometimes I just don't know how to give you information without expositing it, so it's partially my handicap as a GM, but also I like the idea of Zordon not quite as omnipotent, and I feel like especially for Rangering not in 1993, I didn't know how appropriate it was to have Zordon being the one giving you all the information, because based on how they've continued to kind of refine who Zordon is, I'm not so sure he knows as much as it came off in 1993 when they were doing the series. And those Rangers are very different than y'all are, too, so. Also, as much as I can frustrate and annoy Brick into having a conversation with Zordon, I always have a lot of fun with that, so.
I do, too. I think, like, Brick is, like, such a team player, you know what I mean? Like, because of his sports background, you know? And so I think it's just difficult because, like, you always go to your coach for advice, right? So, like, when your coach just has nothing to, like, offer you, it's probably, like, really, it's frustrating for him because, you know, like, this person's been theoretically coaching for thousands of years. You know what I mean? And it's just like, this is, you know, I just feel like Brick feels that there has to be more that Zordon can offer the Rangers that he's not, but
yeah. No, and I like that dynamic too, because in a lot of ways, Brick is the one to be like, maybe we shouldn't really trust Zordon as much, like they did you giving your fealty to this giant head in a jar. It's a little MST3K in a way, like to automatically be like, thank you for giving us this power. Now we're going to trust everything you say implicitly. Strange thing from the stars. I like that there's, you know, the idea that you have the permission to question the idea of coach having all the answers when this coach does specifically not have all the answers, or may actually be hiding something from you.
right.
Yeah. I will say too, because I want to talk about Jane a little bit. Your dream/nightmare sequence was one of my favorite to build, because I kind of knew where it was going, and I really wanted to incorporate your background. So I really enjoyed just like this very strange nighttime lake of fire. Everybody else got like a daytime thing.
Yep.
And you were just like, it was nighttime, the barracks, and there's a lake of fire in the middle of the room, and what do you do?
Yep.
And I had a lot of fun with that.
It was a lot of fun. I wasn't really sure at first where you were going with it, but it ended up being a really good time, and I'm still not entirely sure I'm not sure if there was a better way I could have gone about doing what I did, but I did the best I could with the information that I had, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. I think you did great. I think Jane as a Red Ranger is one of the most interesting. You're right up there with Lauren and Jen in my book as leaders of Ranger teams. In so much as Ranger teams have leadership. I feel like of all of the female Rangers that have taken the reins of leadership, you're a lot more subtle about it, and you question yourself, and you're very human, but you make really great calls, and you want to do the right thing. And I like that because that speaks to your kind of military medic background you were building.
Mm-hmm.
But I also just like that to have a ranger that's in charge, but kind of not in charge because you're also an ensemble. And we know in Zeo, Tommy talked about every ranger being important, so I wanted to be able to honor the ensemble, but like, you also have this incredible potential to take charge, and when you do, people listen, and it's just this incredible thing to watch how you grew into being a Red Ranger, really. So, yeah.
It's been a really, really fun to watch Jane, because I really like the way that you approached it, because we didn't know what colors we were going to get. We didn't know what power weapons we didn't know anything. So we kind of built our characters blind without really knowing where we were going to go from character creation. So when you said Jane was the Red Ranger, I was very surprised, because that is not the direction I saw her going. So watching her kind of grow into this has been really fun and kind of interesting. And I think especially for season 2, with everything that happened in season 1 and at the beginning, because we've already started recording season 2, so like the very beginning of season 2 when things happen, kind of watching her growth from the beginning of season 1 to now has been really fun to kind of watch her, because I think she's really starting to realize these people, they're not just your teammates or your friends, and they rely on you, and she's not used to having people rely on her because she's moved around so much, and she's not really had a lot of friends to really lean on or have lean on her. So now that she has that, it's really kind of interesting to see her be like, okay, well, I need to kind of put my feelings aside and make sure that my friends are okay. And watching her do that has just been really interesting to me.
And I liked getting to know your personality little by little. By the time we got to the test, and I had no idea who was going to win it, by the way, it was totally going to be a roll of the dice. People were going to make choices, and somebody was going to win out of the 5 of the Rangers, but I had no idea who. And I just liked this idea.
I lost that money.
I thought Cecily was going to win too.
A part of it was I wanted, because I could tell Jane was also starting to deal with the struggle of leadership, so I kind of wanted to start down the path of internalized guilt that by the time we got to the Halloween episode, you were feeling, and I could physically have a manifestation of that. And just based on how you answered the question at the end of the test about it, and having Angel Grove in this universe be kind of this quasi-military suburb, because Area 52 was a thing that no one really talked about, but that was influencing a lot of things that went on in town and how people were approaching Rita and the Putties. And so, like, after people had spoken, it was clear to me that Cecily and you both gave very earnest answers, But if I had been in that crowd and I had been like a military kid, and thinking about who the judges were, they would have resonated more with that. So for me, it was like, well, yes, and now Jane has to deal with both that and the fact that you basically get a 2-year free ride for college. So now you also get to make some choices that you have to tell your parents about, which is the most terrifying part of adolescence, is making choices and then telling your parents about the choices that you make if they don't like them. So
I think we even touched on that a little bit after the fact because, she hasn't really gone into her past very much, but her parents were military and her dad died in combat. And that's why she's living with her grandparents in Angel Grove, because her mom is still active duty and got sent overseas. So when she got to Angel Grove, she was already grieving because she lost her father. She was in a new place, living with grandparents that she really hasn't seen very much. And, you know, she's used to being in new places with new people, but she's dealing with grief and, you know, living in this family situation that is very unfamiliar to her now. And then, you know, she has these expectations of, well, you know, your grandparents were military, your parents were military, your father wanted you to follow in his footsteps, so it's kind of expected that you're going to graduate high school and join the military. And then she wins this contest to get a 2-year free ride to college, and all she's ever wanted to do was go to art school. So she has this, like, not only did she beat her friends who she knows could have definitely used the scholarship, you know, what do I do? Do I follow my dreams?
Quentin, cough, cough.
Cough, cough, Quentin, exactly. You know, and, you know, do I follow my dreams or do I honor what my, you know, deceased father wanted for me? So, yeah, she was feeling pretty guilty about everything.
You did give me an opportunity to create one of my favorite NPCs that I created the whole campaign, which was the other Jane, who is an homage to Jane from Daria. And so the other Jane will be appearing more in the series as we move forward, especially because there is aspects of the choice you made to go to art school and follow your heart that will become apparent as time goes on, and I can't spoil those yet because that's part of season 2 and beyond.
Yay! I'm excited about that. I think that'll be fun
too. Do you have any favorite moment that you can think of for Jane specifically? I know the round room in Area 52 is very harrowing emotionally, so it may not be a favorite moment, but I think the argument that Brick and Jane have that about who's going to make the sacrifice, and then all the way up to what I know that the choices you both made.
I was still there too. I wanted to take that sacrifice. They were
you
just.
Did. You were all in that room.
Louder.
I originally had it planned too, where that the blast doors went down and like there was a ranger in every single room, so that there'd be at least 2 rangers even shut out from making the choice. And the blast doors went down. Jane rolls like a 25-26, and I'm like, okay, that's stronger than any blast door that I've got in the book. So I guess you're all gonna be in the room.
That's honestly, that was really hard to record the whole thing, but it's honestly one of my favorite moments, because she was so distraught at the fact that, you know, this is my team, it's my job to protect these people, and I am by myself outside and I can't get to these people and I need to help them. And my dice rolls were not always that great, and that roll that I made, I think I got like a 26 to like rip open the door, was just wonderful to me. And then the argument between me and Eddie, and then knowing that Brick did it before I got a chance to, and that just everything that followed after that was just, it was so much fun and so hard at the same time, because it was just so emotional for her to go through that. But it was definitely one of my favorite moments to record.
And I think for me, something I love about the Halloween episode and Area 52, which I think actually are back to back. Let me double check. But yeah, so Monster Match and Area 52 are back to back, and they come right after Tall and Strange, where you all finally get your Zords, which was my first Return to Oz homage with the Wheelers. So I love that because in 8, you started to see how playful you were as a group and how comfortable you had become. In 9, with the Beedrill throwing around the puns, beating this very classic Ranger villain. And then the hard turn, as you discover all the things the military is doing because they've noticed you, because you now have Zords especially. I really loved being able to provide those hard turns, knowing they were coming, and knowing that y'all didn't know they were going to happen until you were just, living that as your life. I appreciate that you all hung in there for those, but as I was writing, I was laughing and crying and anticipating your laughter and tears, which is, more or less what I got, too, which was really cool.
I really like I messaged you because I had the thought after the episode about Jane doing the paintings for everybody. And the next time we did it, I was nervous because I wasn't sure how the players were going to react. I was worried they were going to think it was stupid, but it was really important for Jane because she recognized these people as her first real group of friends that she's ever had, and she wanted to do something nice for them, so it was important for her to show them, and the only way she really knew how was through her art. And that whole thing was a lot of fun to present them with the drawing, the paintings that she had done for them.
I really like that. I was like, yes, I'm totally into that. I'll just figure out how to get into the episode. And I like that artist warrior trope, too, because you don't see that a lot. And when you see it, it's usually not handled as well as it could be. I feel like that's one of the things in Dino Thunder, especially, that I found was they really tried to be like, they're teens and they're rangers, and really tried to give them outside interests that would fold over, and I didn't find that it worked as well for Kira as it does for Jane, especially. I also loved in Stew, the episode where I introduced Latour, in the episode with the Pudgy Pig episode, which is called Stew. I loved Brick and Jane struggling so much to get up the wall, and I just needed you to get up the wall because you couldn't make your power cannon until you were all in the same area, and trying to get you two up that wall was like pulling teeth. I was like, please, just roll a 15. Please, just give me something here. And you just kept falling down.
Yeah. That was fun.
That
and frustrating.
Of one of the first, I don't remember what episode it is, but it's when I go to Ernie's to deactivate that thing on the roof or whatever.
When you were by yourself.
By myself,
by
and
yourself,
I'm and I'm in Ernie's, and I think at the end I try and do this cool move to get out of the juice bar, and I totally fail and fall
That was also the episode where I think it was also you, Brick, that tried to initiate the power pose with all of the explosive color behind you, and trying to wrangle the cats so that everybody was doing the pose at the same time at the end. By the way, that is episode 2, Dumpster Dampener, which is the first entrance of Finster, who, if you don't have the Across the Stars PDF, Finster now does have actual stats. I had to mod Finster into the game with stats, just like I had to mod Babu in and Squat, but now Finster and Goldar especially have stats, which is really cool. Also, episode 2, Dumpster Dampener, is the only one in the Alternia archives, which is available at podcasters.spotify.com/pod/show/Alternia archives now, because they're no longer anchor.fm. Episode 2 is the only one where the title of the episode comes before the episode number, which I kind of like, actually, thematically.
I want to give a shout out to Eddie for that episode, because Eddie and I were together, and he decided we got teleported to the faculty parking lot that was closed and locked, and he decided that he was going to try to do a really fun jump over the fence, and he passed his roll really well and was able to do a really great jump over the fence, and I was very impressed.
An athletic nerd. He's strong by size, right? But he's not going to be like Courtney. He doesn't do a lot of that. And now he's in a super suit. Of course, he's going to sit there and try to do flips over a gate. That's what superheroes do.
Yeah, and that was also the episode where Cecily and Quentin almost got squished by a truck. It was very mad world. Because Cecily and Quentin, I kept trying to get you to go where you needed to go, and y'all just kept almost falling off the truck. I almost lost you both to a Cisco semi-trailer.
I mean, honestly, that was such a fun, like, it was like puzzling because it was like such a weird situation and a way to like to get through it. I was like, am I doing this right? Is there a right way to do this? We don't know.
I was keeping up with that episode. That was the first episode where I was like, this is going to really stretch me to my improv limit. But it worked out, and I think everybody had a good time. I had a good time, so.
It was fun.
Yeah. Speaking of Eddie, I want to be able to talk about Eddie for a minute. We're actually
I like that.
We're already at 40 after, which I'm surprised by. We could talk forever. We don't really have a set end to I'm willing to go over time, so it's up to everyone else though. So one of the things I like about Eddie as a ranger is that you are a modified Black Ranger, heart of the team, which is a skill that Brick has, that I gave to Brick, but I gave you a different skill. Mm-hmm. And so I traded 2 skills out. So technically, the way that you play Black Ranger is completely your own, because you actually have a different skill that most Black Rangers don't have. I really enjoyed when I introduced Bulk and Skull in the Deja Vu episode, and they turn into putties, and you're trying to help Cecily put back the communicator together so you can all get in touch with Zordon. I really loved how Eddie kind of didn't fall into like an anonymous support role, but how you actively chose to be in that supportive role, and I could feel that choice time and again, and I like that because that's a very hard thing to do in a TTRPG, even when it's not in podcast form. And I really liked being able to give you space to do that, but also give you ownership over the things I knew were choices that Eddie was going to get to make throughout time. When we get to Are You Happy? Especially, and everybody's making choices about what brings them joy and the idea of maturity. And Quentin has a really great black and white thing about not wanting to work in an office. And you really get to explore the idea of being silly versus serious. So yours is a bit more ephemeral. And I really loved that. And that you were doing like a lot of really great philosophical work with Eddie about what it meant to really mature and grow up in a psychic realm, which I really loved. So
part of the intention with the character of Eddie is I wanted to do something that I do not naturally lean towards as a player historically. Given my I typically will play kind of like a crazy mage type thing, a bit of a cookie thing like that, or a kind of a Zath Brannigan kind of style paladin kind of thing, like a whole lot of machismo and all that. And oftentimes just kind of doing these rather kind of like selfish kind of characters to a degree, right? But like not even really kind of realizing that they're kind of doing jerk things, so it's still kind of okay. And then I was playing a game of Starfinder with some good friends, and I was playing a Yusokai, and I was just kind of like, in my brain, I was kind of thinking maybe a little Rocket Raccoon, but I found myself just kind of like, 'cause this is about the time like Rick and Morty was just started, and I kind of found myself just kind of defaulting to just always being like snarky and like kind of combative or whatever, and I just kind of wanted to get away from that. And so I wanted to do Eddie as someone who was compassionate to a fault, because I myself, I don't feel like I perceive empathy quite as well as most folks do. I have a very big difficulty with understanding someone else's plight in a way that I can very easily, without intending it, but kind of just brush it off, not really paid a lot of heed. And so that's something I myself have been trying to do better at. And playing a character like this is kind of a way, in my mind, to do that. And with the backstory with Eddie being a tragic character, I was kind of pulling from some things that like happened in my own life, but like ramped up a little bit here and there. And so it's like near the end of like middle school, taking care of his father who's terminally ill, and he ends up passing away. And at the same time, the house that me and my father were living in, Eddie was under the impression that he would inherit it, but his aunt managed to, at some point, change the where it was going to go, because when their grandfather, who owned the house, who wanted it to be in the family, she had power of attorney when he was on his deathbed, and even my father didn't realize that this happened. So after he dies, can't afford a burial, can't do any of that because this was something that was too painful for him to talk to his father about before. And so whenever his father tried to bring up discussions about what is going to happen when this comes to pass, Eddie couldn't deal with that, and so his father would just put it off, and so it never happened. And the only thing that the aunt did was she bought an urn to be able to put his ashes in. So they were essentially forced to cremate him when generally in the family it's usually been burials. And then she evicts him from the house. And while Eddie was taking care of his father in the hospital, visiting a lot, it was a twin room, and the other individual in the room was this gentleman named Dennis. And my father was always the kind of person to be smiling even when there's a lot of things going wrong, and really strong in that way. And he was also one kind of person who would make friends really easily. And so him and Dennis hit it off, and then get to know Eddie a little bit, and then that's why Kim and Dennis essentially took him in.
I really like, with Eddie especially, that we've gotten little pieces of that backstory, and it has informed some of the choices you've made. I really like the idea, too, of Eddie being an art collector, which is something that was kind of revealed later in the series, is how Eddie really sees the world. You were very clear about your power weapon as well. And everyone did have kind of things they wanted from their power weapon, but I felt with you really did know that you wanted the power axe, but the energy cannon aspect of it wasn't as interesting. So I appreciate that you not only kind of knew your character well enough to surprise me, but you knew your character well enough that nothing you did felt surprising. It felt very, very organic, especially upon reflection. Yeah.
I was also really surprised with the color typing because I never really consumed a large amount of Power Rangers media. I believe I probably watched the first season and then just kind of stopped. I watched a little bit of Beetleborgs for a bit, and thinking it's kind of related. I didn't realize how interconnected all that stuff actually ended up being. But I didn't have a good understanding of kind of what the black color spectrum in the lore really kind of represents. And so when you assigned black to me, I was just like, that seems kind of weird. But then the more looking into it is like, it's someone who is kind of willing to be that like jovial, entertaining kind of trying to cheer people up kind of thing. And Eddie likes to try to do that with like joking, making up like silly nicknames and doing that kind of stuff. Kind of make it seem like he's not really taking much of anything serious, but he's doing that in his mind to try to make other people around him feel better, because he doesn't like witnessing someone kind of in pain without wanting to do something directly about it, which is also kind of why Eddie is trying to like keep an eye on Vulcan's skull kind of thing, and try to really kind of get an idea of kind of like what's the damage there and like what's their tribulations. And then with being a part of the group, there were a handful of things that occurred that I really enamored me to the other players here. And the first one was like with Jane when we went to the beach as a class, right? And I had that little dino arm. I never really thought in my head that was going to be a gift thing for Jane. I was just like, I had the dino arm. I was just like, oh, it's a red T-Rex, and then my brain goes, wait, okay, this is now a gift, and that was the intention all the time. Ah! And then I pull up my black one, and so basically rolling with that, and then the kind of how Jane took that and the interaction with that, and then another thing that really struck me was when Brick started using my nicknames. That one right there, because it was, I believe it was the Blippity View when he was starting to phase into things, and then he started calling Zordon the fish tank guy, like, and all that type of stuff. And it was like, before that, I just kind of felt like I was kind of being the weird oddball, and then my oddballness was starting to infect people. And then with Cecily, it was the soapbox car, right? She had a chance to kind of get in there and do a little thing. And it's like, I really had a vibe that she didn't want to seem like she wanted to do it, but like underneath, like she was really bubbling to kind of want to try to like do the thing and whatnot. And then the whole chicken thing with the thing was just because I wanted to roll with that.
I really like. I want to resound that too. I wasn't sure how y'all were going to take to Balkan Skull in season 1. And the season 2 thing is a bit of a spoiler for season 2 in that there may or may not be a soapbox car, because I was a Boy Scout, so like if I can throw a pine car derby in somewhere, I'm all about it. Because I have a very conflicted feeling about Bulk and Skull. They have this weird abject hero's journey, and they became very important in the Boom comics. I wanted to throw them in as kind of the classic Teen Angst characters and see what you did with them. And I found that as you all interacted with them and starting to kind of deconstruct why they were, it influenced how much backstory I gave them. To the point where now I know more about them than I ever thought I would. And there are very specific reasons that things have happened between Brick and Skull. And as that was happening, and you actually messaged me about Bulk, so I've actually started to move those two tracks along in varying ways for important purposes. But the idea of Bulk and Skull as kind of these ancillary buffoon characters. There's something really interesting about the idea of Rangers that are really good in this universe, and then two a-holes in high school that are just angry and bitter, and you can't figure out what their deal is other than they look like they fell on a sale rack at Hot Topic. And being able to bring them in and watch how you change them and how they're starting to really change, and you see it more in season 2, and you're going to see it more as that unfolds, because they are kind of inexorably linked to the story, because all of the NPCs that I create are really linked to the Power Rangers in very specific ways. Obviously, Latour Finn is an homage to a character I love. Amy Whitaker Scott is also an homage to a character I love in Ranger canon. And so, like, Bulk and Skull, even though they are Ranger canon in their own way, I didn't just want you to have buffoon villains outside of Rita. You have enough trouble with Rita and trying to keep up with whatever the heck Zordon is talking about. I wasn't just gonna... I feel like I almost would have made Principal Kaplan more of a threat, quote-unquote, if you hadn't had jibed as well as you did with Bulk and Skull. And there's more to come on that, because there'll be more to come in Season 2. Does anyone else have anything else they'd like to say about Season 1? Because we're going to get to the top of the hour, and then I think we're going to be done.
I was going to say one quick thing for Bulk. I fell down a bit of a Wikipedia hole early on where I was just kind of like looking up stuff, and I never realized how much the actor that did Bulk was actually involved with the Power Rangers franchise.
He stayed on the show for a long time, longer than any of the original
Not
Rangers.
only that, but didn't he end up like producing or like directing? Or like he was kind of also involved behind the scenes too, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's
Also, you
directed.
Based on what I
Show
read.
off your helmet.
What?
Show off your helmet.
Oh,
If your Hyperforce helmet is readily available,
it's
If
not.
it's not, it's
really.
okay.
I put it back up on its shelf where it stays. But
What I read gave me a lot of respect for him as a person, and so
So
that's why I wanted to be a friend of Bulk.
And I think there is something really important about the Rangers befriending people you wouldn't expect them to befriend. I really thought I'd get more to Cecily and Latour. Like, I thought that Cecily would get super obsessed with the tarot reading tea guy. And so I keep trying to bring him back into the fold a little bit. But he's cryptic on the same level as Zordon, so it feels a little samey in a way. It just he's more magic than science and tech necessarily. So, and it didn't surprise me as much as it confirmed, because in the Are You Happy episode, everyone that didn't end up falling asleep had the chance to have Skull take half their power coin and have their power, essentially. Like, that was always in the drawer in the episode, and then when it happened with Brick, I was like, now I have a road to follow down. And I have some very specific things coming down the pipe for that. But, yeah, it was one of Brick's great roles where Brick insulated himself more in the story of Skull's life than he knows yet. So
I thought that was actually really great, because I think it was just Jane and Brick that was awake, that were out of the Rangers that stayed awake. And it was the first time I think Jane and Brick really had to work together, just the two of them. And it was this really interesting dynamic where you have this, like, jock and this little, like, art nerd, and she's the one fighting the monster while he's, like, trying to wake people up. And it was this really interesting, like, switch from what you would really expect. You would expect, like, the big jock to be the one fighting the monster, and instead it was, like, this little petite art nerd with her big weapon. And it was just a really, really interesting.
That's really awesome, is being that jock, but then kind of being the type of person he is, with kind of, like, he's not stereotypical, but he's still very much that kind of those kind
Yeah,
of vibes, right?
I think it also kind of like plays to our characters too, and like how we've built them, like because your power is like shielding people, right? So like your power is like making sure that you're taking like the brunt of attacks, and my power is like healing stuff. So like I'm more focused on, making sure that. Yeah, I feel like look from the outside looking in, it seems weird, but when you like look at it from the perspective of like our characters and who our characters are, I feel like it makes sense.
Yeah, I think it worked really well. She likes to protect everyone, and you like to kind of heal and help everyone. So it worked out. It was just kind of funny because we really they really hadn't had a chance to work together, just the two of them, and just seeing that switch was just kind of interesting. But they worked really well, and we pulled it off.
And it was all based on the roles, because that could have been any number of characters. You could have all ended up in the dream realm. You could have all stayed awake. The only thing I knew was that Bulk's mom sold wind chimes, and that there was going to be a sand element to it, and it was going to be a giant cactus, and everything else, Brickfist, everything that happened at the antique fair. That was all you guys. I was just along for that ride, and it was amazing, and I appreciated it so much.
Was that when Brick's mom started? What is it, Brick's mom or Jane's parents that has the?
No, Brick's mom.
It's Brick's mom. Yeah, it's Brick's mom.
Brick's mom has some suspicions. I'm very excited for if there's ever a conversation between Brick and Brick's mom about the thing happening in season 2. That I'm not going to spoil.
I was thinking about
yet.
that the other day. Yeah, we won't talk about it, but I had
there's some room in the next recording for that. But yeah, we can talk about that. Yeah.
Is the night the most beautiful night?
I just kept picturing that scene from the opening. There was a flashback in the TV show Reba, where they show Van and Cheyenne meeting, and Van is like, "Mom, he's just a weird dude. I don't like him." And then the pilot of the episode is Van and Cheyenne announcing the pregnancy, which is not where you're necessarily going to go, not by any stretch. But I like the kind of Reba. I like the Reba-esque quality of the mom is like, Jane is very sus, and whatever comes out of it, Brick's mom will always be so sus of Jane, and I like that. I like that extra flavor in the universe, because I didn't see it coming, but it worked.
She just she was concerned about her friend, and she poor Jane.
I mean, there was room to be concerned. I really did write that in to be something where when Brick lost his coin, losing your coin is losing a part of yourself. It was important to me to be like, there are consequences to this good act you did, and there would be good things coming after, but much like everything in the universe, nothing happens for free, not even in Angel Grove. We're at a little over the top of the hour, so I want to be able to end this and have everyone get back to their night. Coming up next in the Alternia Archives podcast network, now that Becoming Mighty and Morphin is done, the next thing up is Deadlands. And you can catch Isabits and John with me on every other Wednesday, so not this next Wednesday, but the Wednesday after, on Power Rangers Centurion. And you can catch Lottie Aloest doing a lot of really cool burlesque, drag, drama, and art, and then probably performing in Angel Grove Madrigals in season 2 of Power Rangers. The title for season 2 is not Becoming Mighty and Morphin, because you're no longer becoming, you are. The title of season 2 is Sentinels of Senior Year, because officially the first episode of season 2 is after season 1's summer has ended, because summer does have to end eventually, and I don't know if we're ever actually going to do this, but there's been talk about Jester and I reprising our character roles from Saints and Sinners, but nothing has been made. Nothing has been able to happen calendar-wise. We're working on it. But everyone who's intrigued by the idea of River of Nightmares, feel free to join Jester for a fabulous Penny Dreadful one-shot. And I still have a couple of ghost hunting spots left if you're looking to do destination investigations. Isabeth's Blades in the Dark is so cool it filled up first, and so there's no more room unless I guess you're really good friends with Isabeth's and ask. But you can
Not
totally
everyone's as
ask.
cool
There's
as
no
Jane.
harm in it. And nobody is as cool as Isabeth/Drew/Freya/Jane/Jules.
All Jane all the time.
All
No.
Jane. Oops, all Jane. We
No.
are eventually going to do an all Jane episode. Everyone just transforms into Jane.
No.
Be so
Jane's all the way down.
No.
Can we take a
Jane
small
all the
moment
way
before we
down.
part ways to just acknowledge how awesome Lottie Alla West looks tonight?
She does look amazing.
It's true. Tonight
Freaking
and
stunning.
always. Actually, before we go, one thing I'd like to do, because I would love to have had Quentin here, but Andrew couldn't be here, sadly. There's much joy in Andrew's family because there's a new Bambino, but
There
sadly, Quentin was not able to be here tonight. Does anyone have any favorite? I did love Dung Beetle, Quentin's band whose name he changed. There was a lot about Quentin I liked as a character and a lot that he didn't get to really explore that's going to come up in season 2. But does anyone have any favorite Quentin moments they want to share, be it his fabulous saber-toothed tiger Zord, or just Quentin in general before we head out?
There's
Dark
so
Cycle.
many.
The drama of the loss was
Yes.
really, really impactful to explore, and how each one of us took it very, very differently. And like my little thing was like, I started trying to be helpful to him by like picking him up, and then I was starting to buy him coffee when I noticed he was getting tired, and then like in my mind, like after he was gone, Eddie never stopped taking that route, buying that cup of coffee, and doing all that stuff. Like he couldn't stop himself from doing that. He didn't want to acknowledge that happened.
Very fair. Yeah, and that's what's great about this is that it doesn't seem like a lot, but when you look back on it, there were 13 episodes of character building before we even got to season 2. So by the time you get to season 2, and I am being a dick GM testing those bombs, you really did get to feel this group become its own Power Ranger group. And I really love that. It doesn't feel like a clone of Mighty Morphin. It doesn't feel like even a clone of Dino Charge. It does feel like its own organic thing, and I am very grateful to all of you, and I hope everybody will tune in, listen in, I guess not tuning in, it's listening in to Season 2, which is TBA, and I'm excited for everyone to find out what happens during Sentinels of Senior Year. Thank you all for tuning in. Rem Alternus will be back tomorrow evening with Like Clockwork, Lord Will and the Creeks Don't Rise, as my friends and family used to say. Thank everyone for tuning in. Yes, we'll stop. Oh my
Sorry,
gosh.
I was yelling at my cat.
That's fine.
Penabon's your cat?
No, my cat's over there getting into trouble. I thought I muted myself, but I forgot that I have way too many places to mute myself.
No, I like that. That's amazing mom energy. I'm a big fan of it. But I do want to thank everyone, and I hope everybody has a great night. And we will see you next time in Angel Grove.
Love all of you. You're awesome.
Bye.
Love you all.
Thanks, guys. This was really fun.